I recently aired a video. It was a video of a gentleman named Don. He, for lack of a better way to describe Don, he decided to live a very minimalistic life, one in which he kept very few possessions or held on to very few possessions, and he sought to live a life seeking a spiritual awakening, or I guess a spiritual discovery. I don't know really how to say it, but that's the best way I can describe it. Most of the comments about Don were positive. People appreciated what he was trying to do and the lifestyle that he was seeking. But there was one particular comment that stood out. And it was a comment in which the person talked about people in van life and how he felt that they were basically unproductive individuals wasting their productive years away, and that van life created a mindset that was pretty selfish. But you know what? I'm going to read that comment to you, and I'm going to share my take on this opinion, and I'd like you to share what you think about it with me. So come on, let's talk about, is van life a trap sucking people in to a worthless existence? But anyhow, let me read parts or excerpts of this comment to you. This van life journey seems to me to be more and more a trap that creates a selfish, all about me, enjoying this world mindset. Not evil, just a waste. They give up life to just exist and watch nature and cook, eat, and see stuff all alone. The writer went on to say what kind of things Don, or how Don could have made such an impact on society. He also talked about, or he said, no production whatsoever, just using resources. And talked a little bit more about how the Bible says to go out and, create or be fruitful and populate the earth. But basically they ended the comment saying that van lifers are tricked into wasting their productive lives. I have never dedicated an entire video to a comment on my channel, but this one I felt needed to be addressed, and I'm going to address some of the points that the commenter made. And again, I would love for you to give me your viewpoint. Do you agree? Do you disagree as adamantly as I do? Or are you kind of in between? Let's chat a little bit about this, shall we? First of all, many of the people that I have met in van life, particularly older people living on Social Security, they're living van life because it was the best financial option for them. I have spoken to so many people who have told me that when they lived in sticks and bricks, all they could do was pay their rent, their utilities, and there was nothing left for them to do anything. They had little left over for food, but they couldn't even go out to dinner with a friend, couldn't go to a movie, a concert. They were just existing, basically staying in their house or their apartment because they had nothing left over. They chose van life because it was a better option. Living van life, they cut down their expenses dramatically. In living in an apartment or a house, your rent or mortgage is set. You can't change it. It's going to be the same every month. Living in a van or an RV, you can decide to travel a lot or travel a little bit. You have a lot of control over your expenses. So the people who did this for financial reasons told me that they have a lot more leeway. They can now afford to go out to dinner with friends from time to time. They can go to a movie or do something enjoyable where they couldn't before. They were just existing. As far as it being a selfish mindset, I have never, ever met a more generous and kind community than the van life nomad community. I can't tell you how many times there has been someone within this community who's had a need. Sometimes they've expressed it or shared it, sometimes they haven't, but people knew about it. And people rally around to help them, to support them. Even people who have very few resources have done what they can to help. I just have not encountered a more generous community. So to say that van life encourages a selfish mindset, I have to adamantly disagree. As far as the comment that people in van life are not productive and are just using up resources, nothing could be further from the truth. So many of the people that I meet in van life have led a life of service. They've led a life where they've raised children. They've raised, even helped in many instances to raise grandchildren. They have maybe helped to care for elderly parents. And they're at a stage in their life where they don't have very much time left. And so the time that they have left, they want to spend it doing what they want to do and living life on their terms. And my question would be, what's wrong with that? I don't know anyone involved in van life who was tricked into van life. Who tricked them into it? That would be my question. I mean, was there some scam artist benefiting from all these people getting involved in van life or becoming nomads? No, people were adults and they made adult choices. Now, are there some people that find out it is more difficult in some areas than they anticipated? Of course. Are there people who may not be as prepared as they perhaps should have been? That's in any walk in life. But again, I don't know of anyone who was tricked into getting involved in van life. And the question I really want to ask is, who has the right to make a decision if another person's life is a waste? Who decides the criteria? Who decides how you measure the value of another person's existence? Who has the right to do that? I don't think really anyone has the right to do that but that person. I think each person has the right to decide how they want to live their life and then pursue that. The only criteria I think that should come into play is that you're not harming anyone else. If you're not hurting anyone else, why is it anyone else's business? I was talking to someone who's a nomad the other day, and we were talking about this topic after this comment was left. And, I told them, I think it's a very slippery slope when someone has the right to say someone else's life is a waste. At what point, or let me ask this question. So when is a person's life of value, or when is what they're doing, I should say, of value? Who gets to say, well, if you do A, B, and C, well, then your life is valuable. But if you do D, E, and F, it's not. Who gets to make that judgment call? Who gets to measure your life and determine how much of what you have to do before your life measures up to some arbitrary standard? I think people who decide to live life on their terms are the people who really are the courageous people in life. They have decided they're not going to live to someone else's arbitrary standard. They're going to live to their own standard, and they're going to live life on their terms. And I salute people who do that. And I salute Don. Yes, he, in my opinion, based on my lengthy conversation with him, is a brilliant man. And I think he probably, had he pursued a PhD, would have been on the cutting edge of energy research and possibly could have made some significant contributions to energy research, perhaps in the area of geothermal, perhaps magnets. I don't know. But if we have the ability to do something, are we required to do that? And who gets to say that? Who gets to make that decision? I think we get to make that decision for ourselves. Well, anyhow, this is just what I think on the matter. And, I think that maybe a couple of times, maybe more than a couple times a month, maybe on a Tuesday or a Thursday, I'm going to do a Tuesday or Thursday talk and address different things that are on my mind. Some that come from comments, some just from everyday life. But anyhow, that's what I think. Let me know what you do in the comments.